Good evening. Thanks very much. Look, two issues here and both merit going into. One, the lack of scientific acumen displayed inside the highest court of the land is deeply disappointing. The only thing worse than seeing the Chief Justice of India confuse science with sociology and sex with gender was to see no one in that packed courtroom correct him. Sorry, him or her or it, depending upon how the Honorable Chief Justice identifies himself. For him to say there's no such thing as an absolute biological man is astounding. Biologically, a man is one who possesses XY chromosomes and produces sperm. Biologically, a woman is one who possesses XX chromosomes and produces egg. Biologically, man cannot produce an egg. Biologically, a woman cannot produce sperm, QED. Sociologically, they can identify themselves as a man or a woman, and no one should have a problem with that. I certainly don't. Do not confuse sex, that is biological, with gender, that is social. And that is why it was painful to watch the Chief Justice of India indulged in this anti-science quackery. I am filing a petition in the Supreme Court tomorrow demanding an immediate ban on the broadcasting of court proceedings. Injustice must not only not be done, it must also not be seen to be done. No, but seriously, for a judge to confuse, possibly interchange or swap sex and gender raises serious medical and legal quandaries. Just imagine, you find a biological man's genome on the crime scene, but the judge says there's no such thing as an absolute biological man, and so a man could not have committed a crime. Furthermore, on a more serious note, biological man and biological woman respond differently to medical treatments. Indeed, for many diseases, the treatment is specifically tailored depending upon the sexuality. For example, did you know esophageal function is sex dependent? And in esophageal disease like GRD or Barrett, even esophageal cancer, the treatment and response to it is tailored as well as dependent on the sex of the patient. You can't treat a biological man like you would treat a biological woman even if the former identified himself as a woman. This conflation of sex and gender can be devastating for practitioners of clinical medicine. Look, this is not just about toilet or locker room entry. You are already seeing biological men who identify themselves as women sweeping all the medals before them in categories hitherto meant exclusively for biological women. Where would this end? Ironically, by peddling such statements, the Chief Justice is actually working against the interests of biological women and their rights, something they fought for centuries to get. Fact is, science tells you any observable entity must be defined. But it also tells you that you cannot swap definitions. You can feel you are a man. You can even sense it inherently. But that is not to say that you are biologically a man. Till date, there has not been identified a gene that controls gender identity. But even if scientists find one in the future, the definitions of gender and sex will not become interchangeable. For example, a landmark study published in the journal Science in 2019, investing 500,000 human genomes, found that there is no one single gene for homosexuality. But homosexuality has a genetic component in addition to a non-genetic one. This is not to say that homosexuality is not natural. Of course it is. Likewise, gender identity is also natural. Any biological man or a woman should feel free to identify himself or herself any which way they want. But to conflate gender with sex would be plain wrong. Now let me come to the other issue very quickly on the matter of same-sex marriage. I support it. Not just because I'm a scientist and I understand and appreciate the science behind homosexuality, but because I'm a human being. I believe it is a crime to have separate rights for LGBT. Gay rights are human rights. Homosexuality is completely natural as heterosexuality. Science has proven this. And what's beautiful is that our 8,000-year-old civilization has always supported homosexuals and transgenders. Let us not turn India into an Abrahamic island where science is rejected and scriptures overrule everything, where homosexuality is considered a sin and condemned and punished, sometimes with death. Quote, execute both, the one doing the action of the people of Lut and the one to whom it is done, unquote. Islam absolutely prohibits homosexuality. Quran 26, 166, 781, 2755, Bukhari 72, 774, Dawood 4447, Tirmidhi 1456. Also, this is not about live-in relationships that India now thankfully allows for same-sex couples. This is about marriage. that endows legal rights like raising children and adoption. Study after peer-reviewed scientific study, including the latest one in the prestigious scientific journal BMJ in January 2023, shows that children raised by same-sex parents do as well as emotionally, socially, and educationally as those raised by heterosexual couples. Look, some nations may not like it, but thankfully, Indians largely go by what science tells them. Tell me, what decides the timing of allowing an abortion in India? Science, through the age of the fetus. What decides when to marry in India? Science, through the readiness of the female body and bone structure. So, who should decide who to marry? Science, through the proven fact that same-sex couples raise children as well as different-sex couples. Lastly, my only objection to the Supreme Court, if it allows same-sex marriage, would be that it chose the cowardly route of Special Marriage Act. डरते हो कहीं सर तन से जुदा ना हो जाए, my lords. But why? We are but a bunch of cells, here today, gone tomorrow. We are a conspiracy hatched by thunder and lightning and water and ammonia and hydrogen and methane and dust. Let religion and its mesmerizing literature not fool you, my lords, into believing you were created by someone who wasn't a product of RNA world in the first place. So don't be scared. Take that one small step for man, woman, one giant leap for mankind, womankind. And finally, my Lord Chandrachud, I know you read and watch and monitor social media closely. You might even have a secret Twitter account. In fact, I strongly suspect you are that delightful Rascala Cool Funny t-shirt. A request to you, my lord, please take my views in the spirit of things. Say cheese and don't slap a criminal contempt case against me. I already am battling one.